Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to RPA and Intelligent Automation Live. We have truly saved one of the best for last. We have lessons learned from successful RPA implementation that have saved millions of dollars. So we're setting the bar very high here because our next speaker can live up to those expectations. Rias Attar is the Vice President for Enterprise Project Management Office and Strategic Initiatives at Caesars Entertainment. He's a business strategist, transformation expert, operational excellence leader, and program and change management professional. He has worked for various companies from small to large Fortune 500 and in a variety of industries in the United States, in the Middle East, and Canada. He has initiated, planned, and executed transformation programs that have contributed over $1 billion of combined EBITDA for their organizations. He's also publishing a book in October and launching a business consulting practice called Say A+. He joined us today from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome, Rias. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Jose. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for Brian and Vijay to give me this opportunity again. For today's session, I really wanted to share my journey with RPA with all of you, to give you some insights on how we did the implementation and what did we do, what can we do better, and the lessons learned. So as some of you may know, I lead the Transformation and Program Management Office and Continuous Improvement at Caesars Entertainment. The toughest part of my job is when the CEO comes to me and asks me to get about $200 million every year EBITDA to supplement the targets. And you go and you try to tackle this through process re-engineering, through technology, through people and data. So we try everything. And a couple of years ago, we came across RPA, and we started kind of playing around with this RPA. We engaged a couple of companies to help us understand what RPA is all about. The good lessons learned that I heard that we experienced from RPA was that it is fantastic. It's very, very beneficial. I could have not saved tens of millions of dollars without, partially without RPA. I have to tell you that I will share with you some success stories. But to start, I wanted to kind of share with you this preliminary cover of my book, which is called Change to Win. What we are all about to do in our organizations is to change. We are here to change. We want to make a positive impact. Changing for the sake of change is meaningless without predefined goals and objectives. So our objective is always to change, to adapt to the changes in environment, and to find ways to capture and realize positivity in that change. And this is kind of what I'm talking about in my book. It's about changing to win, or change to win. It's not about change only, but to win. And in there, I tackle the people, process, data, technology aspect. And RPA is a part of my book, believe it or not. And this presentation highlights some of those items I talk about in my book. So feel free to check it out in full. So I want to start with, again, change. People resist change. I have to tell you, my toughest job, I think a couple of years ago, was to convince not only management, but managers and line workers that I need to change. And RPA was one of them. People prefer to deal with the devil they know. They know it's a devil, but they're comfortable with it. And they usually do not like to change. So change management is a big aspect when you want to implement RPA. You have to convince people, you have to not only talk about, but you have to show in real data what RPA is all about and how it helps. So we all start with this comfort zone where we're all happy, and the customer, the CEO or the C-suite or the management are very happy and familiar with this process. then you start changing things. You move them to like this danger zone. Like, oh, wait a second, this is unfamiliar. This is I'm stressed. I cannot work on this anymore. It's really out of my comfort zone. So as soon as you start like the learning curve starts to spike, you start to see this learning zone. It's like, okay, wait a second, it's not as bad as I thought, but I may need to find ways to understand it. And then this is where you realize opportunities, and then the growth is like the ultimate, where you start to see potential. And this is kind of where you want to reach. You want to find your spot, like where exactly can and how fast can you move from this comfort zone to this growth zone with your management to implement RPAs. So again, when we talk about learning and machine learning, I like this quote from Alvin Toffler. He says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So it's really interesting because we always try to latch on the knowledge we know, but we try to avoid, not all of us, but many of us, we try to avoid, like, I don't want to learn something new. It's already proven. But that's not the case. And this is what we did with RPAs. We started to realize that the data is power, and we all know about that. But there's a different level of data, and I wanted to explain this a little bit before I jumped into RPA. So the first element of data is just raw data. The raw data is just a collection of facts and numbers. When we start to put those together and form some sort of like information, which is like an aggregation of this data. And now it's not only just numbers, it means something. It's an information, it tells me something, and that kind of takes it to a knowledge. The knowledge is now I'm forming a good understanding of this data and the information, and I'm trying to understand what's going on, what's the story. And as soon as I start using this knowledge to create a decision, a powerful decision, it becomes a wisdom. So this is kind of the trait of a human being. Usually, it's the wisdom. Usually, and until recently, wisdom has been only uniquely attached to humans. It was very tough to have computers as powerful and the software as powerful as enough to mimic the human wisdom until recently. And this is what the RPAs and artificial intelligence is all about. So the journey of the level of artificial intelligence. Again, I'm just going to spend 2 minutes on this. So on artificial intelligence, it really begins with the what if algorithm. And then the next level will be like business intelligence or BI, and then machine learning, and then cognitive automation. So RPA lives in that like cognitive automation. The what if statement is just a simple what if. We used to do it like back even in the 80s, in the basic, even before Visual Basic, if then whatever. We still use it in Excel. We used to use it in many softwares. But this is like the basic what if that machines can help us with. The business intelligence becomes handy when you have like a bunch of data and you want to create those graphs and dashboards and illustrate or put this information in a meaningful structure. Now, the machine learning becomes like the next level up when we use this data and we form some sort of machine learning capabilities, or we reach that machine learning activities where the machine starts to realize certain behavior and understand that if this behavior is going to happen, this is what I need to do, but on a complicated mainframe. Then the cognitive automation is the highest level of machine learning, and this is kind of where the machine can do, this is the bot really, where the machine can do almost everything, and this is where the wisdom, the machine can reach that wisdom capability. So I just wanted to kind of show you, how we started kind of realizing the different kind of elements and why it really is important. So when we talk about RPAs, as most of you know, can be used for many applications. I heard several speakers talking about like amazing RPA examples in their organizations. Brandon, I believe from UiPath, talked about like a bot for every person. So that's a very interesting vision. from our perspective, or from my perspective, what I have experienced is like RPAs are very, very helpful when the process is either highly manual, it's rule-based, and it's repetitive. So if you have those three, the RPAs can actually hit all marks. We use RPAs a lot when we try to connect a legacy system with cloud as well. So this is usually very hard to achieve with a proper integration. I mean, you have to have some sort of a middleman, and that RPA becomes this middleman to connect all those dots. So, so this is kind of what we have used RPAs for. Our bot cycle started with just the idea, of course, after we get the buy-ins from the leaders and the investments and the systems necessary to put the RPAs and the partners that we need to partner with to create those RPAs, we need to have those ideas, and the ideas come in different shapes and sizes. I mean, so you need to figure out what ideas are best suitable for RPAs. So the important aspect is to make sure that you hit the mark. Otherwise, you will lose confidence. You may need to start with a bot that actually hit the mark and create this aha moment, this eureka moment, where it's like, whoa, wait a second, this is amazing. So first we need to kind of filter those ideas and maybe pick those ideas that may, highly likely hit the spot. We do the initial assessment, we design the bot, we kind of go through this iteration. I heard about Agile a lot. We go through this iteration of design and test, and design and test, and then we have this UAT. Then we develop and stabilize the bot, and then we launch it. This is what we do at Caesars what we did at Caesars. So how does RPA work? And again, I'm not a subject matter expert here, but I'm just sharing with you my experience with it. I'm sure there's so many SMEs in here in the audience that can speak to this more intelligently than I do. But this is kind of my humble experience, where again, with the intake, we get the RPA request. We have to make sure that we have a proper process. If the process is not right, the bot will not be right. So we have to redesign the process in any methodology you may seek or you may have, but you may need to redesign the process, because the current process that you may have for a human may not be applicable for a bot. So you may need to kind of redesign the process a little bit and make sure that the process assessment is complete and it's good enough for the bot. We do the business case. At the end of the day, any change we do, most of the time, I would say almost all the time, has to have a positive impact. The positive impact, in my experience, is linked to the bottom line. If you can generate $1, then you're successful. If you can generate a customer satisfaction that's transition to $1, you're successful. If you can transition to lower cost, that means lower dollar spent, that's successful. Anything that is meaningful and measurable. So I encourage all of you to have a measurable impact for anything you do, and specifically RPAs. This is really what we did. We tied all RPAs, every single RPA, to almost a GL, almost at the GL level sometimes. And we say, okay, this bot generated X dollars of money. This dollar saved 40 people, literally, who were doing manual work. So this is where the business case and complexity and benefits kind of all comes into place. You put all of this together, you get your leadership sign off, and then you start developing the bot. Where do you put the bot is another thing now. I mean, the cloud is the most secure and more stable environment for the bot to live. And then you have to establish those triggers. So what would trigger the bot? Is it a scheduled trigger every single time, or every certain time, every single day or week or whatever? Or is it an automated trigger based on an activity or based on a certain process that would automatically trigger, or KPI maybe, or just trigger that bot? Then you put all those inputs for the bot. So the bot has to grab all this information, whether it's a flat file, whether it's a PDF, a website, an application, multiple applications. So you need to kind of figure out what those inputs are, and then the action. And when you put the action, that's kind of where the bot delivers the objectives. And make sure that you always throw those exceptions, because there are almost always exceptions, and it becomes really complicated when you have many exceptions. So this is how RPA worked in our vision. I'm going to give you some samples from what we have done and how we actually leverage RPAs. And the hospitality industry, and specifically the casino industry, is very complicated. We are like 5 industries in one. We have hotel, we have food, we have beverage, we have entertainment, we have gaming, we have convention. And behind all of this, we have a very complicated supply chain, very complicated marketing channels, very complicated hiring channels. And I mean, it's 65,000 people that we currently have. And again, it is just a very complicated system, or multi-industries in one industry. So one example is marketing. So I think that was one of the first few bots. I think the first bot was in accounting and audit. That was actually good, but the really meaningful bot that we did was in marketing. So we, as casino operators, we send offers. We send a lot of offers to customers to come and dine or game or do anything at our 40 plus properties. So the offers that we send are custom tailored. We send every customer a specific. Sometimes we send mass offers or mass marketing, like a billboard or just a regular mail. But most of the time, we send custom tailored offers. Why? Because there's a customer who spent $1 million a day gambling or gaming, and there's a customer who spends $50, maybe $20 a day. So there's what we call a net worth of the customer, what every customer worth. So the customer who spent $1 million, we have to send them an offer that's actually worth a lot of money. So we send them like, I don't know, $5,000 of free, dining or something like that. Sometimes we offer them like a villa at Caesars. I don't know if you've seen this, but you just go to YouTube and see like Caesars villas. If we don't sell those, but if we have to sell them, they're like $30,000, $40,000 a day type of villas. So for those billionaires who have like the greatest mansions, you have to impress them with something. So anyways, make a long story short, we have to impress those people. So we send them, very rich offers. And so for the ones that, and then you have that tier and all the way the spectrum to the maybe $1 customer. So how would you send the right offer to the right customer? And we have millions and millions and millions of customers. So we used to have, and we have mail and direct mail, by the way, direct mail and email. So we used to have people. So we have the system. We have the sales force. We have multiple systems that create the offers. But we used to have people that just audit, take some random samples of offers and then audit them. We had like a whole department to do this. So what we did, we started using the bots to proofread or proof every single, not one, not a sample, every single direct mail and every single email. And believe it or not, the direct mail that go to the printing company, it's in PDF. So, the system generates all those direct mails, in postcards or leaflets and whatever, and then the printing company prints them. So what we used to do is like for those people to go to the PDF, the proof file that has to be sent to the printing company and make sure that, it's the right amount, the right customer, like literally. And we're talking about millions of offers every month. So we created a bot just simply to do this, to grab all the information from different areas. I just outlined here the process for the email, but like if there are multiple processes where, it opens multiple templates, it logs into the Salesforce system, grab the name, it logs into our casino system, and it brings the net worth of that customer, match them together, look at the criteria, look at the offer, put all of those together, proof it, and then flag. either yes or no or whatever, and then process them. And as soon as it processes them, it just send them automatically to the print house. Can you imagine millions and millions and millions of proofing, not to mention the human errors that could happen, like between the 0 and 1 and fatigue and whatever? The bot does not fatigue. It just does it perfectly. But the process has to be mapped correctly. The systems and the links and the files all have to be precisely mapped and verified before we launch that bot. So that was one of the most successful bots that we created. Is just about proofing, because we don't want to send a $5,000 or $10,000 offer to $100 customer or patron, right? So that's just one example. We saved a lot of money at this bot. Another example was hotel. So in the hotel environment, we have multiple booking engines. We have the website, we have Expedia, we have Booking, we have third-party vendors, whatever. And then we have direct booking, right? So we used multiple bots for the hotel. One of them is to just aggregate all of those into like one centralized system. And the problem with that is sometimes the rate that let's say Expedia has may change from the rate that we have in the system, because it changes every second sometimes. So that's one example of bots that we created to validate the rates between the hotel system, what we call LMS. Our LMS is it's very old, 1960s or 70s AS400 system, and then our partners, and then validate all those rates. So validating rates was one of them. Validating information is another one. Repricing is another one. So we had multiple bots targeting hotels and targeting efficiencies that saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars of either missed opportunities, wrong rates, or sometimes missed patrons. Believe it or not, sometimes the reservation comes in, and because we're dealing with very complicated, legacy systems that are very old, and then a cloud system that maybe our partner is using can generate inconsistencies, and sometimes translation is lost in between. So you may lose a reservation. Just imagine you're tired, it's 1 o'clock after midnight, you're traveling, you come into the hotel and there's no reservation. Wait a second, I reserved through Expedia. Well, but it's not showing me in my portfolio here, and we don't have rooms. Can you imagine that experience? So we tried also to create a bot to validate those reservations. So this is another very successful example that we used bots or RPAs for. The third example, it's actually about retail. So it's another industry that we is industry within an industry that we have in the company. So we have, I forgot how many outlets, but we have many outlets, hundreds of outlets. And we have warehouses, and we have items that we order directly from vendors, and we have items that we order from our warehouse to fulfill the orders. So we created a bot to create those purchase orders, because we didn't want those to be manually entered. And the problem was the system that we had in the warehouse was very old, and the POS systems were like new Dynamics 365 POS systems. So translating and having those two talking together was very challenging, and we had so many manual work in between those two complicated processes. So you can see how hundreds of items every day have been ordered automatically through bots based on a certain threshold of every item, like water, cigarettes, and whatever. I mean, those things can be immediately triggered. You can probably have your procurement system order those, but the problem was, again, the translation between what do you have in the warehouse, what do you have in that specific location, the need of that specific retail, and then have a bot to verify this information. And not only this, is also the accounting treatment. That was another big deal. the accounting treatment of every single item, and changing accounting transaction or book those items in the GL. That was another bot that we created. That was also very, very. I mean, I'm telling you, some of those bots, if you now go to the stakeholders and ask them, can we go back to the previous process? They will say like, no, absolutely not. We cannot. We will be dead. So the RPAs became a very substantial and critical piece of our foundation in multiple operations. I'll give you another example. It's about scheduling. So every day we have dealers at the tables. We have different types of labor at maybe restaurant outlets or retail outlets or conventions outlets. So we have very complicated scheduling for labor. So the managers would schedule the labor, and the labor would just come to work. This is like very basic, but things happen. Somebody gets sick, somebody gets late, somebody gets early, somebody leaves. So you would think that your HCM or human resource system may capture all of this, but you wish. It's not as easy. So this is kind of where we have like a centralized system for scheduling, but through the mergers and acquisitions that we did over the past 20 years or so, we got stuck in multiple fragmented systems, like but many departments and hotels and areas were like having their own system to schedule labor. Some of them use Excel, some of them use a centralized system that we have, some of them use a macro that they developed or a database that they developed or SQL, whatever. So it's like, wait a second, we need to figure out how we can do this better. And we want to make sure that all the clock in, clock out is accurate. Somebody who clocked in early cannot just be given extra time because, I mean, they were not supposed to be there early, or somebody who come in late has to be penalized, or maybe somebody who is scheduled to work at a certain shift and then call it off. How we can, and you don't want to pay that person. So we want to make sure that before everything goes to the payroll, you validate or revalidate the inputs, the outputs, the exceptions, and this is kind of the simple process of the bot that we created just to handle exceptions and approval of all the times and people of those people of the scheduling, labor scheduling activities, and that's another bot that we created. I think the last one that I'd like to share here is about HR, and that is kind of one of the bots that we created to make sure that we smoothly link the candidates that we want to hire from the minute that they submit an application all the way and the requisition all the way to the offer and placement. So we created the bot because we have, again, like when we have multiple legacy systems, the bot works perfectly. But you just need to make sure the process is perfect, the data is clean. Whoever who designed the process has to be like a subject matter expert to understand the linkage and all of this, because garbage in, garbage out. The bot will not function very well if you don't have it right. So this is where we have like Talea, we have the human resource system, we have Oracle, whatever. So we have all of those systems in the HR that were also a little bit fragmented, and the RPAs helped us streamline and validate the information of employees, and not to mention that some of those information are sensitive. They have to be careful of what you show and how, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the examples that I wanted to share with you. There were several of you who mentioned, or several of the presenters who mentioned the control aspect of the bot, and this is extremely important. The controls, support, maintenance, all of those are extremely important. Those are some of the items that I just listed for support that we implement, and the maintenance that we need. So the support that you may have is, okay, monitoring the bots, whether it's the process itself or the environment, the platform. So you want to make sure that this is being monitored. And then once it's monitored, anything has to be triggered, or any anomalies have to be triggered, whether it's an automated system automated alert, maybe just a dashboard of the performance, whatever, or it just could be a custom alert. It could be a manual alert, something like the team thought this process was perfect, but then found that this new element is very critical to the process. So they raised the concern that, oh, we need to add this. So this is a manual support of a business need, or maybe an issue. The bot had some critical issue and we need to fix it, and so on and so forth. Not to mention the change requests. So people may also have functional changes. People move, people resign, maybe non-functional changes like the capacity of the bot. We run into this where we needed to increase the capacity because the bot is handling millions and millions of transactions per second. So we needed to change the capacity of the bot, and maybe sunsetting a bot. So it's not always perfect. Many times the bots do not really do the work, or they deem unnecessary or unsuccessful. So you need to make sure that you have a criteria to sunset those bots. From a maintenance perspective, again, there's some like environment changes. It happens a lot. Windows version changes, Microsoft version changes, antivirus, whatever. Everything that changes may impact your bot almost always. So you have to kind of be vigilant about that. The business application itself, it may impact or may not impact the code. So you also have to have a proper maintenance. And of course, the maintenance for the server or the database or the visual machines that you may have. Okay, so to summarize what I was trying to say in this presentation is that RPAs are fantastic. I love RPAs. If they're done right, if the process is right, if the partners you're working with are right, and if your people who are designing and helping you to develop those internal and external resources are also right. So if all the items are clicked, RPAs are fantastic. I have saved millions. I may probably save tens of millions of dollars in RPAs or using RPAs. The other thing that I have here is, the monitoring and validation and support for the RPAs may be expensive. So don't be shocked if you are caught in this cost element of, wait a second, it's costing more than I thought, or there's a lot of maintenance and support. Oh my God, I have to have like 5 full-time people just to monitor those RPAs and validate every single RPA. Yes, but you are saving 50 people. But also there's always a room for improvement. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. And again, I talk a little bit about this in my book. So feel free to check it out sometimes in late September or early October. And I'm opening the floor now for questions.
Outstanding, Rias. As we have a discussion here, please, all of you, keep sending your questions. I'll take a look at the question panel and I'll keep grabbing questions from there. Rias, do me a favor, if you can please stop sharing your presentation so that they can see us in the bigger screen.
Okay. A second, how do I do this?
It's in the control
right
panel. Yeah.
There you go.
There, you got it, man. You got it. Fantastic presentation. Thanks for sharing all those great insights. I'm going to ask, there's a number of questions here, and I'm going to ask right at the top. Zenkana was asking you if you could share your experience where you had to redesign the process or the metrics so that you can actually use RPA in that process. Do you have any experience with that?
Oh, absolutely. I don't want to say almost every single time, but it happens quite often. I think the process redesign should always precede the RPA implementation, almost always, because the process may be good for a human, but the bot thinks differently. you need to make it like foolproof for the bot, and the bot continues to learn. There are many bots that actually, it's an artificial intelligence. We had a bot that helped us with a chatbot, and the chatbot, the questions that we got, we had a bot to help us reshuffle those questions and add questions that we may want to kick out. So, for example, one of the bots that we had for the chatbot was to validate those offensive questions. Believe it or not, we're in the casino industries, and people get drunk sometimes, and then they would just chat with a chatbot, and they think that chatbot is a real person, and it's like, I want to go on a date. Can you come to my room, whatever? And then it's like, wait a second, it's just a bot. So again, sometimes you just need to redesign certain processes. So yeah, I just give that example because I thought it was funny. But you almost always have to redesign the process. And if not the whole redesign, let's revalidate the process.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. You said it all. I mean, as a true excellence and innovation leader, you always start with understanding what your process is and eliminating, reducing, and automating at the back end. Well said. Now, the other question that I have here is from Akhlaq Khan, and he asked about your challenges with RPA implementation, but less from a technical standpoint and more from a cultural and change management standpoint, and introducing this new technology to the process owners and players in your industry who may not even know what a robotics process automation is. They may think it's some hardware robot that's coming into the casino now, right? And so how did that go in that environment? What type of hurdles you had to overcome?
Yeah, great question. Hey, listen, change management is a whole big practice, and it applies not only to bots or RPAs, to everything. And every time you have to change people, process, technology, data, you have to engage in the change adoption. It is very hard. And to your point, Jose, I mean, I had people coming, it's like, are you bringing like a physical robot? It's like, no, it's just, I used to call it a macro on steroid. This is how I explained it to them. It was just a macro with just like a lot of steroid because it's like so powerful. So, and then the next question is like, what is macro? It's like, oh, all right, now I have to explain what is a macro, right? So believe it or not, it is not as easy as you had asked. Change management is a big deal. My recommendation is to start with a small bot that would just trigger the interest, and a bot that is based on a process that is revalidated and clear. You don't want to be failing the first bot or two. If you fail, you're doomed. Nobody will believe you, and nobody will adopt. But when you, for example, the marketing bot, when we created this, oh boy, I'm telling you, almost every single VP in the company started calling me. It's like, oh, we heard you doing this for that person or this for that person, and you saved what? You eliminated the whole department. Well, sometimes we did, sometimes we just repurpose the people. So sometimes people are afraid of losing grasp, and probably this is the most difficult piece of change management, is because people do not want to lose their grip on their job, on their process, on their job security, whatever, and their people. So it depends on the circumstances of your company. You may say, okay, well, we are going to repurpose, retrain those people to be more effective in certain other items because the machine can now do this. Just imagine if you have like a policeman at every single intersection instead of a traffic light. Can you imagine the labor? Right? So same thing here. I mean, like, okay, well, it's just a simple traffic light to say, what if, right? But just imagine this by being a bot. So what you think it's very, logical now, it's going to be extremely manual 5 years from today or 3 years from today. And if you do not change fast, and I talk about this in my book, if you don't change fast, your competitors will, and they will be fast forward, light years ahead of you if you don't.
That's right. It's you either disrupt yourself or you're going to get disrupted. and it's a lot more painful when it comes from outside, right? And
Absolutely.
and on that, Sam Larson has a very specific question here around the Salesforce instances, and I don't know if you can comment about this. I'll try, and because it's pretty specific. He asked if there are Salesforce instances used for the group sales team. What issues and specific limitations did you have, or if there are any positives associated with the Salesforce instances and integration?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I recall there was a specific issue with the connection between the bots and Salesforce. The bots are just simple. They go to the system, they log in using a certain credentials, they grab information, and they go and connect it with another system. So it is not as complicated as you think. And I'm not doing a bot to go and refactor Salesforce code. Right? This is not the purpose. Salesforce is a whole system that is perfect, not perfect, but like it's very strong and important. The bots are just a tool to grab certain information from Salesforce and other systems. So I have not seen any major issues because the Salesforce system just does exactly how you tell it to do. And the bots will just do that.
Makes sense. On ROI calculations, understanding value creation from RPA, you know, just kind of an overall view of how you're calculating the ROI, you know, redirected labor, and you know, what is the approach that you're using?
So it depends on the RPA. Some of those RPAs can be just cost avoidance, and some of them are cost savings. Some of them are revenue generating, like the offers. They generate the offers, or they help generating revenue. But the bot itself or themselves are not cheap, by the way. So if you want to do it right, you have to invest in the bots, and you have to invest with the partners. If I have to do it differently in the future, I would probably hire the best-in-class partners to build those RPAs. Not only they understand the technical element, but they actually can help facilitate the process re-engineering. Are you there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. So those partners, I think that they should, again, not only help with the technical element, but also with the process element. And then I recommend that you start build your internal capabilities, because again, I mean, as you start year 2, year 3, the management would look at other areas of cost savings. So you may want to go back and say, okay, you know what, this partner has been great. Unless we can generate incremental savings in certain bots or find new ideas, we may want to, educate and invest in our internal resources. So if I want to do this differently, I would probably add more investment in our internal capabilities to carry on those like support and maintenance, while use our partners to develop those complicated bots. But the RPAs from a return on investment, I'm telling you, many of those RPAs were like no-brainers. I mean, you may shed some costs through certain triggers. You may need to replace people with bots. You may need, unfortunately, to let go some people. And sometimes you just repurpose those people to more value-add work instead of just validating numbers and data.
That's a very interesting insight, Rias, to have a partner who can actually help you redesign the processes. So implicit in that statement, it seems that there are certain process optimizations that make RPA easier to apply, to create more value from the RPA application itself. So very interesting perspective. Okay, I have to make, there's a comment here from George Corbin, which is fantastic. He has said, it's not a question, it's a statement. He has said that you have created a new quality standard for RPA, and the quality standard is, quote, "May your bots be so human that customers want to date them." Okay, that is worth a piece in your book.
Yes, indeed.
Very good. we're on the up on time here. So as a final takeaway for all of us, with the experience that you have accumulated in the 12 months, um, for those of us who are implementing RPA or scaling RPA in our organizations, what is the best advice you'd give to them on doing that?
Don't delay it. Just go ahead and do it. It's a no-brainer. Seriously, no-brainer. Again, like, remember that traffic light example I told you about? Probably, I mean, it's just a simplest example. Just if the amount of money you have to put and the maintenance to put a single police officer in every single intersection in the country, and the cost. So might as well put a bot and then repurpose those people to fight crime, which is more important. And it's just a simple example, but it's just almost the same analogy here. I mean, when you talk about the business, there's some people who are just used to it, used to this process, and they don't want to change. And again, remind them, and I talk about this in my book, remind them that if you do not change, you will die. I mean, the dinosaurs, they were big and strong, and you think that you're big and strong, but they're the first to die extinct because they could not change with the changing environment. And the competitors are actually doing everything they could to outsmart you, to grab market share, to offer something that is amazing. Like, I'm just going to tell you one example I noticed. As I'm launching my new website, I engaged this SEO optimization company. So apparently, I give them the access of my social media and everything, and the content. And every week, twice or three times a week, they go and they post automatically those social media posts in every single one of them. And it's not the same; it's different. So they created a bot to literally, very simply, just to go there, and all they have to do is just to program it once, and it, boom, automatically happens. It goes to every single social media. It posts a certain, message or something that we pre-designed, and that's it. So just imagine having somebody physically doing this for thousands of customers every single week, 4 or 5 times a week, or 3 times a week. Can you imagine the cost? You have just one bot that does it all, and it's perfect. Like, no error in the language, no error in the posting, nothing. All they have to do is just make sure that the password is not changed, the link is working. Again, like the support and maintenance. So my advice: do it.
Very good. It's a great way of finishing our sessions of RPA and intelligent automation. Rias, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your practical experience with us. It's a real privilege and honor. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of RPA and Intelligent Automation Live. You will be receiving an email after the conference, and this email will have a link so that you can access all the recorded sessions and the interactions that we have had here. I hope that you had an enjoyable experience. I certainly did. I always learn a lot when I host these events. And I want to remind you that our next event will be the Business Transformation and Operational Excellence Summit live event on IBPM. So we're going to talk about business process management, the evolution of business process management. You do not want to miss that. And you'll receive, probably, if you're registered for this session, you'll probably receive an email that talks about that event. But I'll tell you that you can go look at it and see the agenda, see the speakers, and register for it. It's going to take place live, virtually as well, June 23rd through June 25th, and it's ibpmlive.online. ibpmlive.online. It's been an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you. We'll continue our discussion on LinkedIn. If you want to have comments, kudos to the presenters. I sent you on the chat, and you should have seen a link to the conversation on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I'm unable to accept connections on LinkedIn because I'm over the connection limit. But if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'll follow you back, and we should be able to communicate that way. And I look forward to seeing you in future events and hopefully on June 23rd. Thank you, everybody, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.